Hello students, I am your S.Sc teacher Mrs. Manju Sharma, and today we will start our new chapter, The National Movement of Class 8th in History. As we know that when the limit of tolerance of the people goes overboard, then there is a revolution against the rulers and such policies which cause discontentment. The growth of Indian nationalism in late 19th century was the result of various exploitative policies of the British which had caused serious implications on all aspects of the Indian masses. So, in this chapter, we shall study about the rise and progress of nationalist movement which led to the independence of India. We have already studied in the previous chapters as to how the Indian economy was ruined by the different revenue policies and influx of British goods in India. At the same time, British had introduced certain policies to fulfill their selfish motives, but it helped Indians in organizing themselves as one against the British. One such policy was the introduction of English language. The nationalist movement in the other parts of world inspired them. William Jones' ascetic society also helped Indians to rediscover their glorious past. Press played a very important role in bringing mass awakening and bringing people together. And the introduction of railway helped in bringing people together by providing an easy medium for transportation. Beside these factors, certain steps taken by the British from 1876 sowed the seeds for Indian nationalism as they were discriminatory in nature. Now we will learn the reason for growth of national movement, and first is discrimination in appointment of government jobs. Policy adopted by Lord Lytton. First, reduction of the maximum age limit for the ICS exam, passing of Vernacular Press Act in 1878 and Arm Act. And now we will know about the starting of the Indian National Congress. A number of associations were formed after the revolt of 1857 with the aim of promoting national awakening among the people of India. East Association London formed by Dada Bhai Nauroji, Poon Sarvajanik Sabha by Justice Ranade, Indian Association Calcutta by Subramaniam Iyer, the Bombay Presidency Association by Firoz Shah Mehta and Badruddin Tayyibji. An effort was made by retired English civil servant A.O. Hume, and he gave a definite shape to an organization of all India character, and in 1885 All India National Congress was formed under his guidance, and it was presided over by V.C. Banerjee, a barrister from Calcutta, and the first session was held at the Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit College in Mumbai. Now we will study the objectives of the Indian National Congress. The President of the Indian National Congress stated the objective as to promote friendship amongst people, to enhance promote the feeling of unity among the Indians, to formulate and deliberate the demands of the Indians, to create a public opinion. And now we will study the demands of Indian National Congress were to hold the Indian Civil Service examination in India, freedom of speech and press, reduction of high revenue, demands of the government to increase the number of elected members in the Legislative Assembly, development of agriculture and modern industries, etc. The early period of the Indian National Congress 1885 to 1905 is called the moderate phase of the Congress. Now we will study the methods of the moderate leaders. They had full faith in the British sense of justice. They adopted peaceful and constitutional means to achieve their aims. They criticized the government through press. Now the different type of leaders were arise in the National Congress who were known as the moderates. The moderates were able to achieve some reforms and to create a base for national struggle during the first 2 years. However, the moderates failed to achieve their aim as the British governor did not cooperate with them. It played way to the rise of extremists in the Congress after 1905. The famous leader who led the extremist section of the Congress were Lala Lajpat Rai from Punjab, Bal Gangadhar Tilak from Maharashtra, and Bipin Chandra Pal from Bengal. Now we will know the reason for the rise of extremism. The reasons were attitude of the British international events like defeat of Russia by Japan, victory of Ethiopia over Italy gave inspiration to Indians to fight against the British, and the partition of Bengal. In 1905, Lord Curzon ordered the partition of Bengal into East and West Bengal. The West Bengal had Western Bengal, Bihar, Orissa on one side, while the other part of had East Bengal and Assam. The reason given for the order of partition was it was too big to province to be administered. Bengal at that time was considered to be the hub of Indian nationalists. The real motive was to break the growing solidarity of Bengali nationalism. So this event was the main cause of nationalist movement. Now the rise of All India Muslim League. The All India Muslim League was formed in 1906 under the leadership of Aga Khan, the Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka. It was to some extent a fallout and result of the policy of divide and rule followed by the British. The government acceded to this demand, and in 1909 Morley Minto reforms and the Government of India Act of 1909 was passed. It was named after Morley, the Secretary of State for India, and Lord Minto, the Viceroy of India. The act introduced separate electorate for Hindus and Muslims, which implied that they could elect their leaders from their own communities. Now the revolutionary movement was started. The aim of the revolutionary leaders was to liberate India from the foreign rule. The revolutionary had no faith in policies adopted by the moderates and the extremists. They adopted violent means to gain their objectives. In 1912, Ras Bihari Bose threw a bomb at Lord Hardinge, the Viceroy of India, during a procession. Lord Hardinge was injured in the attack, and Ras Bihari managed to escape and went to Japan. This incident is known as Delhi Conspiracy. Next incident took place in 1925, in which the revolutionaries stopped a train near Kakori railway station in Uttar Pradesh and looted the government cash. This incident was known as Kakori Conspiracy case. The next reason was the First World War and national movement. The First World War took place in 1914 between two groups. On one side were Britain, France, Russia and Japan, and known as allies, and the other were Germany, Austria, Turkey and Hungary, called the Axis powers. However, temporarily cotton and steel industry got a boost as they had to supply goods for war. Indian nationalists were hopeful that British government will change in its attitude towards the Indians and reward them for their cooperation during the war. But Indian nationalists were disappointed, and at the same time Muslim League was unhappy with the treatment given to Turkey by the British. This became a source of inspiration for Indians, and the Lucknow Pact was signed. The Lucknow Pact was signed in 1916 in Lucknow. Two important developments took place in this session. First, moderates and extremists decided to work together against the British rule, and second was Congress and Muslim League united in their fight against British in their demand for Swaraj. Meanwhile, the arrival of Gandhiji. Gandhiji is considered to be the most important leader who separated the national movement. His chief contribution to the national movement was that he made the Indian national movement a mass movement. After spending about 20 years in South Africa fighting against the discriminatory practice of African government in peaceful manner, Gandhiji came back to India in 1915, and in the first phase of life he established an ashram on the bank of river Sabarmati, and he started Satyagraha movement. The Satyagraha was one of the greatest weapons of Gandhiji. During the First World War, the British government had announced that after the war Indians will be associated with the functioning of government. So after the war they announced the Government Act of 1919. After that they passed Rowlatt Act in 1919. Under this act, they had the right to imprison any person without trial. This created further resentment and led to the protest all over the country. Now we will know about Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Gandhiji called for a nationwide non-violent opposition to the Rowlatt Act. He declared that April 6, 1919 will be observed as a day of strike. The people responded to it very hopefully. All over Indian demonstrations were held, and the government used brutal method to suppress them. In Punjab, a large public meeting was held at Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar to protest against the arrest of two popular leaders, Dr. Saifuddin Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal. The Jallianwala Bagh is enclosed on three sides of building and had only one narrow entrance exist. A large crowd was sitting there peacefully listening to their leaders when all of a sudden General Dyer surrounded the park and closed the exit point and ordered his troops to open fire till their ammunition was exhausted. Thousands were killed and wounded. It was followed by proclamation of martial law throughout the Punjab. This incident became a turning point in history and the movement became a mass movement. Now, Khilafat and the non-cooperation movement. In 1920, Gandhiji started the non-cooperation movement and the against treatment of Muslim by the British Khilafat wrongs. Khilafat agitation was started by two leaders, namely Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali. Muslims considered the rulers of Turkey as Khalifa. And the method of these movements were people were asked to return honorary titles. They boycotted British goods, schools, and institutions run by them, and they boycotted legislature. Now we will know about the Simon Commission. In 1927, the British government in England set up the Simon Commission to look into effectiveness of the Government of India Act 1919. Indians were not happy with this and not have a single Indian. When the commission arrived in India, it was greeted by the slogan Simon Go Back. Now the civil disobedience movement. A Congress session was held in Lahore in 29 December 1929 under the leadership of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Congress declared the attainment of Purna Swaraj as its aim. Consequently, it was decided that Independence Day will be observed on 26th January. The national flag was unfurled and working committee met in February and decided to start the civil disobedience movement. Thus, they took active part in picketing exercises. Pittsburgh, by the growing popularity and movement, the British government imprisoned Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. Thus, the second struggle for attaining Swaraj, launched by the Congress under the able guidance of Mahatma Gandhi, served the critical function of mobilizing the message on a large scale against the British. Now, first round table conference. 3 round table conferences were held. In the first conference, prominent leaders of Muslim League and the Hindu Mahasabha were there, but Congress did not attend it, ended without any agreement. Gandhi-Erwin Pact. On 5th March 1931, Gandhiji met the Viceroy Lord Erwin after suspending the civil obedience movement and signed an agreement known as Gandhi-Erwin Pact. In 1931, the Congress met at Karachi. It paved the way for second round table conference by approving the Gandhi-Erwin Pact. Second round table conference, Gandhiji went to England in 1931 to attend the second round table conference. The government declined to accept the nationalist demand for freedom on the basis of immediate grant of domain status for India. Further, no agreement was reached and Gandhiji again started the civil disobedience movement. Communal Award. To break the civil disobedience movement in 1932, the government announced the Communal Award, which provided separate seats for Muslims, Sikhs, and Harijan. The Communal Award was supported by many among the minority communities. Gandhiji protested against this, and finally it was decided to have a single electorate for Hindus, in which it was decided to have seats reserved for the depressed class within it. Now, third round table conference. The session was held in 1932 but was very short and led to the passing of Government of India Act 1935. Now we will know about two-nation theory. In January 1940, Muhammad Ali Jinnah propounded his two-nation theory. He believed that it was not possible for people of the two communities to live harmoniously in one country. So, an extra from the statement, the Hindus and Muslims belong to different religions, philosophies, social customs. Indeed, they belong to different civilizations which are based mainly on conflicting ideas and conceptions. The Crips Mission. To secure the cooperation of Indians in their war efforts, Crips Mission was sent to India, which suggested full dominant status in India after the war. The national leadership demanded immediate self-government in return for war support. Gandhiji said the Crips offer of dominion status after the war is like a post-dated check drawn on a crushing bank. The proposal was also rejected by the nationalists. Quit India movement. In 1942, the Quit India resolution was passed in Bombay on the 8th August 1942 by All India Congress Committee. It urged for the immediate end of the British rule in India. Gandhiji urged the people to follow the mantra do or die. Now, the cabinet mission. After the Second World War, there was a radical change in the attitude of British towards India. Labour Party came into power in England, which had a sympathetic attitude towards India's demand for independence. Lord Attlee, Prime Minister of England, sent a cabinet mission to India in 1946 to consider India's demand for freedom. And now the formation of interim government. The interim government was formed in 2 September 1946 under the leadership of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Muslim League did not join it as it was adamant on the demand for Pakistan. Riots had broken out in nearly all parts of the country. It was under such circumstances that Lord Mountbatten became the Viceroy of India and provided a plan for the division of India into two dominions, India and Pakistan. So, like this, our country divided into two parts, India and Pakistan, and nationalist movement was successful in this.